Hi, I'm Maria Thea Harris or Velosos on social media. Thanks for watching and listening to Sober 50 podcast on Soul Organized Style. Today, Lindsie of SewBusty Community and I discuss her move from creating a community to stepping into developing patterns for that community. Lindsie did a quick live chat with me in January on Instagram, so pop into that podcast as well. It's very uncut. Grab a cuppa and relax with us. I like the So Busty behind you.
I know, isn't it fun? My husband got it for me for Christmas.
Oh, what a thoughtful
Yeah,
guy.
I know. Yeah, it's very
Sweet.
fun.
Well, thanks for being on the live. That was really fun. And hopefully there'll be some questions that come out of that as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's always fun to go live on Instagram and to see what comes out after it too.
Yeah. I was really impressed by the amount of work that you do outside of So Busty, like your legal work and your
Yeah.
university work. How did all that come about? Is that what you always wanted to be?
No, not really. I went to university with the intention of being a journalism teacher. I really enjoyed journalism and really liked working with young people. And I thought, well, I'll teach journalism. So I started out my program I was majoring in journalism and creative writing and minoring in education. And then I did my first practicum ever where they send you to a school and
Mm-hmm.
have you teach a class. And I had 38th grade students who are like 13 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I just I don't know, the classroom management. Like, I really enjoy working with young people. I still do, but working with 30 of them at a time was not my thing. And
Yeah.
I found myself dreading going to my practicum, and I decided, well, this isn't a good way to start out a career. Already dreading it in your first year. So I pivoted, I kept my majors in journalism and creative writing and kind of wasn't sure what I was going to do for a little bit. In my journalism major, there was a required media law class,
Mm-hmm.
and I took that class and just absolutely fell in love with it and
Mm.
just thought like this is the most interesting thing I've ever experienced. And so I decided to go to law school with the intention of working specifically on media, First Amendment, like free press stuff. And
Yeah.
in the vein of I am not good at doing one thing at a time, I got a master's degree at the same time as going to law school. So I have a master's in mass communication that's focused on also on media law. So I was doing two degrees in media and First Amendment law at the same time. I work with young people, but I work with them as I work at a nonprofit, and so I advocate for the free speech and free press rights of young people. So I get to work with them one-on-one instead of a group of 30.
It's not as
It's
rough and
not as rough.
serious.
I am not good at classroom management. And in my university role, I teach graduate school. So there's not a lot of, like, most of my students are older than me. So there's not a lot of classroom management. I also teach online. So, like, I don't need to discipline them because they're like, most of them are over 40 years old. Like, they don't need to be disciplined. So it's a little different. That's much better than very hormonal eighth graders.
Behind the scenes, behind So Busty, you're multi-talented and you've got your fingers in a lot of pies and you're
Yeah.
doing a lot. I mean, when you were studying law and then you got your master's in mass communication at, behind the scenes and teaching and
Yeah.
very impressive, Lindsie.
I get bored easily, and so I like to have a lot of things happening
Mm.
so that I can if my brain gets tired of doing one type of task, I have another type of task that I can bump over to. Yeah, I've always kind of been like that. I've always really liked having a lot of diverse things happening where I can use different parts of my brain.
At
So
what point in study and work did you start going down the So Busty community track? And I mean,
yeah,
now it's So Busty the company, but
right.
when did that all start? What were you
So
bored
that
with
all
and started it?
Well, that all started during COVID. So I was
Yeah.
really bored. So I have an autoimmune condition. And so during COVID, I really, really couldn't go anywhere.
Mm.
Um, I went 2 years without going to even like a grocery store. I just don't, I like didn't leave my house. I remember the first time after I got vaccinated, I like went to a coffee shop to get a coffee to go. And I was like, I wonder if I still remember how to drive because it had been so long
Oh.
since I had driven my car,
Mm,
just because I had been locked up in the house. And so during that time, online community became even more important in my life than it had been
mm,
previously.
mm.
I was still working. I was working remotely as a lawyer. Um, I didn't have a well, I mean, I had a husband, but I didn't have a little one yet, and
Yeah.
I didn't have the university job yet. I was doing my 9 to 5 as a lawyer,
Mm,
but I was just very like, I think I was in need of, yeah, I was in need of community. I was doing a lot more sewing because it was something to do. And
yeah.
I've sewn since I was little. And so that's sort of where the SewBusty community, I think, came from, was this like, I was sewing more, I was engaging with the community more. I noticed this need in the community. And so I started SewBusty. Um, yeah. So that it definitely came out of a little bit of boredom. Pandemic boredom. I think a lot of people were bored during the pandemic.
Yeah, sourdough bread making, that was one of those things that people would
Right,
pick up.
right.
But I think the good thing for us is that when you started the Soul Busty community, you did a lot of work in how to make sure that your curves were catered to with patterns. So you did a lot of teaching in that area as well. I mean, like I said on the live, there was the big honking dart. That was the big thing that I remember.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I actually stole that phrase from a post on the Curvy Sewing Collective
Uh-huh.
blog.
Yeah.
But her dart wasn't as big and honking as mine was. I saw it and when I finished, I think that was a t-shirt that I was making, and it was while I was pregnant. Um,
I think
I
you were
think.
doing also a jumpsuit.
Oh, maybe that's what yeah. So yeah, I just remember that dart was very large. It
It
wasn't
had to
really
cater for
big.
you though.
I've been working on my pattern block for So Busty Patterns.
Yeah.
It's pretty much done. It's in a great place, but that's been where a lot of my focus has been as far as So Busty goes over the last few months. It's been developing this pattern block. And it goes up to an L cup. And the dart, if you rotate that, so it's a two darted
Mm-hmm.
pattern block. So it has a shoulder dart and a waist dart. And even those, when it has two darts in an L cup, they're very large. But the other day, was, I rotated it all into a side dart on all of the sizes because I was trying to do some pattern alterations to draft another pattern. And oh my gosh, that dart gets so big. I was like, okay, you obviously could not sew this up with one dart, which I
No,
wasn't trying to sew it up with one dart. I was
no.
doing, like I said, I was doing some pattern manipulation, but like that dart, I mean, the whole pattern is like totally curved because the dart is so big. Um, but you can't, when you have a curvy body, you can't be afraid of strange shapes in your patterns. Like they look strange because they're so different from the industry. The industry doesn't draft for our community. So you can't expect when you have a curvy body for your patterns to look like the industry standard. They're not going to look like the industry
Mm.
standard. They're going to look different. And we need to embrace the fact that our patterns look a little curvy because they go on a curvy body.
And look, the fun thing about having either a big honking dart or you split it into two is you can actually do some really fun things with those lines and have them. Okay, they're pointed to where the curve is, granted,
Mhm.
but you can do a whole lot with it.
Oh yeah, you can do so much. I mean, you can manipulate those darts in any manner of way. If folks have seen the books Pattern Magic, like the things that she
Yes.
does with darts
Yeah.
is wild and so inspiring. Yeah, like the first pattern that I'm coming out with is a princess seam, which I think, that's pretty standard. A lot of people are familiar with princess seams, but I'm working on a pattern right now that's for down the line. That is gonna have like a horizontal princess seam. It
Nice.
seems so obvious, but I don't see a lot of that like coming up,
Mm.
but specifically because it's gonna have like a zipper that you can put in for nursing access.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But you could just make it with that seam. But this is like for down the line. You can do so many interesting things that aren't obvious, that aren't things that you've seen a lot before. And that's been really fun to play with the patterns.
Okay. What it is you're going to be doing, say, in the next 12 months, where are you getting your inspiration from?
Um, a little bit from ready to wear.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my inspiration is coming from like if I could wear anything, like if those garments that I've always thought of being off limits to me were suddenly on the table, like
Mm.
which one of those ones of those garments would I want? So like starting with the very basic sheath dress, but because like you can't when you're a busty, you can't go to the store and find like a really well fitted basic sheath dress. Like it
Mm.
seems so simple, and it is in some ways, but like it's a like a wardrobe staple that so many of us don't get the opportunity to
Yep.
wear.
Yep.
But some of the patterns that I'm thinking about coming out with, in the future are things like I just drafted and made this top with a giant bow for my birthday. And it's like a sweetheart neckline, tank top. Like it's very fun and young, and it feels like I feel like a lot of patterns that are drafted for curvier bodies kind of have like a very simple aesthetic, and this one is more in that kind of like, oh gosh, like I would have loved to have a top like this in college. Like I'm turning 33, I think. I can never remember how old I am, but I'm gonna rock this top that I would have worn in college because I didn't have the opportunity to wear this kind of thing in college. And so like I'm hoping to bring some of that too to the table. Like what are the things that like if you could wear anything,
Mm-hmm.
if you weren't, if you weren't constrained by the types of garments that the industry wants to put curvy bodies in,
Mm-mm.
what would we wear?
In the live, you talked about, you asked the community what it was that they wanted. In the UK, they call it the high street. So
Yeah.
fashionable garments suiting anybody at any age is really what you're looking at, isn't it?
Making garments that I guess challenge the idea that there's certain things that we should wear
Mm-hmm.
when we're a certain body type or when we're a certain age or when we're in a certain place in our life. That's silly, right? Like if I want to
Mm-hmm.
go out to dinner with my husband on my birthday wearing a hot pink shirt with a plunging sweetheart neckline and a giant bow on it, when I'm in my mid 30s with a 2-year-old at home, then I should be able to wear my hot pink shirt with a giant bow. And if someone who, is even in an older, in a later stage in life wants to wear that, like more power to them. I just think that there's been all these societal standards that have been placed upon us
Mm-hmm.
by my street or the industry that just are like I just want to challenge all of them. Like I want to challenge the idea that your dart should only be so big. I want to challenge the idea that you should only wear, empire waist dresses if you have a belly. I want to challenge the idea that you should only wear things with sleeves if you have a big bust. Like these are silly. We should be able to wear what we want to wear, what makes us feel good, just like despite or regardless of what has been traditional. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing for me. It's like if you can dream it, we can make it.
That sounds wonderful. I've sewn for many years, and you only have access to the patterns that you have. And when I go out with people who don't sew, I sit there thinking, hang on a second, I need to change my thinking around what it is I want to look like and not just think about or be limited to what we've got available to us. So I think the work that you're going
Yeah.
to be doing will give us that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, this has been so freeing even just for myself. I think if you had told me that I'd be making this hot pink top a year ago, I'd be like, that doesn't sound like something I'd make. Because a year ago, I was still, even though I knew how to draft patterns for myself, I
Mhm.
didn't do it very often. And so I was still in this mindset of, like you said, like pull a pattern off my shelf or out of my computer files, and like that's what I'm going to make. And now I have this like very wide open, like I can really, like I can make anything that I want and I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
wear anything that I want.
yeah.
And like that is so cool and so freeing. And it's been really fun to see the feedback from the community about like, what do you want? What is your dream pattern?
Mm.
What is your dream out that you want? And I've heard like the things that I've heard, so many of them are so simple that like most
Mm.
people would just take for granted. Like I've gotten so many requests for a button-up top. That's such a wardrobe staple, right? And yet this whole community doesn't have access to a button up top without doing a bunch of alterations work. And so that's
Mm.
definitely on the horizon. Yeah, so it's again, it's like if you can think of it, if you can dream it, like let's figure it out. Let's make a pattern.
Because we're in the summer here in Australia and you see shirt dresses everywhere and
Mm,
variations. They're not fitted, but again, it's the button through and sometimes it's
hmm
not totally button through. So, yeah, you're going to have
hmm
fun.
it's really like it's really enjoyable. I've got so much on my computer. We have to do it one pattern at a time, folks, but eventually it'll all come out for you.
So, how long is the design process in your mind going to be? So, you've got one pattern at the moment that you put a call out for testers, and you've done a really good job in making sure that you're remunerating testers as well, but also
hmm
being clear about what it is you expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I already have the jet set bra patterns and the
Yep.
constellation panty patterns out. And those are the ones that, like I said, Carrie from Firebrand Lingerie had designed. I purchased the IP from her. I did some redesign and some regrading of them, so
Yep.
they are a little
Yep.
bit different. So if you had the pattern from Firebrand, like it might fit a little differently now. Um, then the first garment pattern, or right now I'm also working on putting out a stretch back version of the jet set bra pattern. So the jet set is completely woven
Yep.
fabric all the way around. The only stretch on the original jet set pattern is a little like 3-inch piece of elastic in the back,
Okay.
and a little like 2-inch piece of elastic in the front, and the rest of it is completely
Mm.
non-stretch.
Mm.
And I've gotten feedback, and frankly, I felt this myself that, sometimes you want something that moves with you a little bit more. I mean,
Mm.
that's very vintage, right? Like
Yeah.
in mid-century,
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of elastic or any elastic sometimes
No.
on bras. So like it is inspired by that. But I got to thinking, well, why can't we combine like the best of both worlds? This vintage look, this retro look, but with the comfort, the modern comfort of a stretch back. So there'll be a stretch back add-on pattern coming out. So that's right now being tested. Simultaneous to that, right now I have the Rittenhouse dress, which is the first garment pattern that I'm
Mm.
coming out with, and the first SewBusty original pattern. It's a sheath dress, like I said, with princess seams on the bodice. It has pockets. It has an optional tummy control panel because I personally want that because I
Why
I
not?
have like it's not even aesthetic. It's like I just like to feel like my tummy is like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like a comfort thing. Like it's just more comfortable to have it held in by something. Um, it's got a fancy add-on bundle that you can do that options that you could do even at like a black tie event. So it adds an illusion neckline, sweetheart neckline option,
Okay.
and a trumpet skirt with a train. And so if you want to wear it as a gown, you can make it as a gown. So that pattern is right now, I'm about to send it off for grading. I'm actually
Okay.
having Jennifer from Porcelain Patterns grade for me because I have discovered that's a part of the process that I don't particularly enjoy doing. And so I'm going to let someone else do it for me. And then that should be ready for testing soon. And I'm hoping to have that out in the early to mid spring.
You've
So
you've collaborated with porcelain before, haven't you? Yeah.
yeah, I have collaborated with her before. Actually, with the release of the Rittenhouse dress pattern, she is also going to be releasing her sloper drafting book. So she has a book already on drafting for bra patterns, but now she's coming out with a book all about drafting your personal sloper for garments. So
Right.
bodice, pants, skirt, the SewBusty pattern block is based on her drafting method. So I got a sneak preview of her drafting method. I've tried so many drafting methods, and I really found her drafting method to be the best that I've tried so far for curvy bodies.
Okay.
Because so many drafting methods, just like patterns, right, assume that you're a certain shape and a certain size. And hers really is very focused on like using a lot of measurements. There's a lot of measurements. So it's not the
Yeah.
easiest drafting
Yeah. Yeah.
method,
Yeah.
but it is really accurate because it uses so many measurements. And so she's going to be releasing that book at the same time that the Written House pattern is released. So we're doing some really fun collaboration that way.
I think that's really great that you've gotten together with someone who has the strength in an area that, you could try, but it'd take you ages. And it actually adds to the quality of what it is you're putting out,
Right.
really.
And
Yeah.
that's super imperative for me. I want so Busty Big. I am really, really insistent upon the quality being up to par with some of, the big designers, the ones that we know and love out
Mm,
there. And so porcelain, Jennifer has, she has a degree in fashion design. She
mm.
even was a fashion professor at a fashion school. So she brings a ton of experience, decades of experience and of know-how that will ensure quality. And she and I think really similarly, which is great.
Great. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's really fun. I was talking to some other folks in the industry, and they saw my size chart and went, "Oh my gosh, you have 144 sizes." And Jennifer looked at it and was like, "My Eve bra pattern has 2,000 sizes." And so
Mm.
she just gets it. She understands this like insistence upon customization and being able
Yep.
to fit a wide variety of bodies. And I think we're just going to work so well together.
Great. It's great to know that even when you're putting a pattern out, you're happy to customize for people as well.
Um, I'm really dedicated to making sure that my patterns are inclusive. And so
Mm.
the size range is really inclusive already. It goes from a 33-inch hip to a 73-inch hip, cup sizes D through L. So that's 4-inch to 12-inch difference between
12-inch.
upper
Yeah.
and full bust. I was just talking to someone yesterday who said, I'm really excited about your patterns. At least I'll only have to do a 2-inch full bust adjustment because this person wears a N garment cup. So they have a 14-inch difference between high and upper bust,
Yep.
high and full bust, sorry. And I said, you know what? Don't even worry about it. If you buy the pattern, let me know. I will do the full bust adjustment for you. It'll take me 10, 15 minutes on my
Yeah.
pattern drafting software to make that adjustment for them. It's way faster to do it digitally than to do it on paper. And while I can't add 2 more cup sizes to my full range because that would
Mm.
be adding another 32 cup sizes or another 32 sizes on top of the 144.
Yeah.
I certainly can do that as one-offs for folks who may not quite be covered by the existing size chart. So if someone finds that they're too small and need it graded down or on the larger end and need it graded
Mm.
up, I'm really happy to do that because patterns should fit your body, not the other way around.
Mm. That's really generous of you.
I don't know. Like it's so fun for me. So I don't
Good.
I don't
Good.
really, like I don't think of it as an imposition. I just think of it
No.
as like this is a fun way for me to give back to this community that's been so important for me personally.
Right. Lindsay, So Busty was a community and is a community, and you've
Right.
now expanded to patterns. And you've talked about Jet Set pattern, but
Mhm.
you've acquired it as well as the constellation patterns. Can you
Right.
explain that, describe that to me?
Well, I purchased the intellectual property to both of those patterns from Firebrand Lingerie, which is a pattern brand that closed.
Mm.
They were patterns that I really had loved previously, and I had actually grown and could no longer fit the pattern I had. So I selfishly wanted them back on the market for me, and I'm really happy to, bring them for everyone. So they're now under the So Busty line of patterns and they'll be there. So folks
Great.
can, go back to them, purchase them again.
That's good that you're making them available to people again, but you've done it legally too.
Oh yes, I paid her for that intellectual property. There was a contract and everything.
Good on you. I love the fact that your legal background still comes into play with your So busty side of things because anyway, I'll stop right there. I really appreciate
Yeah.
what you're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah. It's fun. It was fun writing that contract because I do a little bit of intellectual property work in my job. So writing off this transfer of intellectual property rights, I was like, oh, cool. Look at this crossover.
What can people do if they're interested in the dress?
Oh yeah, so it's actually been open for pre-orders. So there, if you go to the SewBusty shop, which is sewbusty.com/shop, you'll see the Rittenhouse dress pre-orders. You can see there the flat like line drawings of the what the
Okay.
pattern is going to look like. You can also see there's some photos of like prototypes that I've made for myself, and as pattern testers start testing, I'll be adding more pictures onto the listing. There's also an option to schedule a one-on-one bust fit session over like virtually with me. So that's an option if
That's
for that pattern
great.
or for really any pattern, if you want like one-on-one coaching on doing a full bust adjustment or making a bra or any of that kind of thing, that's an option that you can choose.
And because I do a lot of work for the Sober 50 community,
Mhm.
all I'm saying is a bit of representation of older selves would be great.
I would love that. I certainly will keep that in mind when I'm looking for testers. I will say, as a designer, now that I'm doing designing,
Yeah.
I have noticed that there is a lack of diversity in tester applicants. And so
Yeah. Yeah,
I would
that's true.
encourage folks
Mm.
to like, I want to have diversity in my tester pool. I think like that's so important to have diversity in body sizes, to have diversity in age, to have diversity in, nationality and,
Okay.
ethnicity, all of those things. Like I want that, but
Yep.
I also am limited by who applies. So I did struggle with that in the alpha test for the pattern block, that just the
Mm.
applications all tended to come from a similar set of people. And so I
Yeah.
would love to have more people apply from a variety of communities.
Look, at any point in time, this is one of the things that Sandy has always done in the Sober 50
Mm.
on the account is when patent companies are looking to do that, she'll help you or will help
Oh,
you.
fabulous. I will definitely reach out.
Cool.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny because you see, like, you always hear that, in like groups or from people
Yeah.
who like other designers.
Mm.
And I never really appreciated how much that was true until I experienced it firsthand. And I'm like, oh, I really want more people
Mm.
to. The alpha testing that I did was really limited. There were only 5 folks who joined that
Mm.
at different quadrants of the size chart to make sure
Right.
that it tested well across the size range.
Yep.
When I open up the Rittenhouse for beta testing for folks to like, check the instructions and that kind of thing,
Mm.
that'll be a larger test. And so hopefully we'll get a great diversity of folks in that test.
The offer's there and it's great that you're open to it. So that's wonderful. And you've seen, you understand the implication of improving the quality of what it is you're providing. So thank you for responding to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to. I think, even like shape, like things change, right? Like, and shape differences
Yeah.
can emerge. I definitely want to see how my patterns fit on a wide variety of people. So I'm excited for that.
So the plans now for the So Busty community or for So Busty is are you doing more interactive sew alongs? Are you providing more resources? What have you got in mind?
Yeah, so there's definitely going to be some things that are coming down the pike.
Yep.
I don't have specific dates for things because so much of it depends upon how the pattern drafting goes and some of that. But I certainly have plans to do some more full bust adjustment tutorials on the blog, and those will always be free. I'm very dedicated to making sure that there's still free resources on the So Busty blog that anyone can access
Mm.
that aren't behind a paywall like the patterns will be. Um, I am planning to do I am planning to do a book, a little ebook on full bust adjustments because I'm realizing that there's really not a resource on the market. I have a book that has a great plethora of suggestions for different types of full bust adjustments for different types of busts. It is a $160 textbook.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like it's meant for people who are in fashion school, right? And it's
Mhm.
one chapter of this book. And so I want to take that type of information and bring it in a resource that that anyone any home sewist, not someone who wants to spend $160 on a textbook. So that's going to be something that I'll be coming out with, and I'm going to have a portion of that book available as a free option. So I think I'll probably have a chapter on just like a basic why full bust adjustment, which is one of the types of full bust adjustments that tends to work best for folks with very large busts. And that will be available for free. And then if you want to see, kind of the additional fit information or additional types of full bust adjustments, that will be a paid product. So I also want to get into doing some more video tutorials. I've had a lot of feedback that people love my essays that I write on my blog that are, if you copy pasted them into a Word document, they are very long because I don't skip any steps. I show literally everything and there's a picture for everything. But there's some people who just learn better through video. I find video hard. So that's a challenge I've given myself in 2025 to do a little bit more video content to try to expand that skill set for myself. So you can look forward to that also. Yeah, math. I hate math, but here I am, like, I don't know, a couple months ago, I guess, I was working on the sleeve head for the pattern block. It's essentially a triangle with curves, or it's a half circle. So I'm sitting here like using the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared to figure out how tall the sleeve cap needs to be for a certain bicep measurement for a certain sleeve. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to apologize to my 8th grade geometry teacher for telling her that I was never going to use this information.
We first met in 2021 and it's now 2025, and I'm so pleased to see how you've developed from being a SewBusty community to now taking it on in a serious capacity to continue to provide not only free resources but resources that people who need assistance with making clothes fit their curves in a more fashionable way. I think you're doing really well.
Thanks. I'm really enjoying it. And I never know what's going to happen next, and we'll just have to see, but I'm here for the ride.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast with Sober 50, Lindsie.
Thank you for having me again. This was so fun. It's always great to catch up.
Yeah, exactly. Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Sew Organised Style podcast for Sober 50 was video and audio produced by me, Maria Thea Harris, in my sewing room with permission from Lindsie. Sound by bensound.com. If you'd like to support the production of Sew Organised Style podcast, pop over to Patreon. Make sure you direct message Sandy on Sober 50 to support their challenges and posts. Go back through the podcast archive to hear and see from more people in the sewing community. There's over 470 episodes to listen to. I look forward to being with you in your sewing room next time. Stay safe, everyone.